She said, "I'd never marry a man who lives in motels. He's temporary." I just nodded and walked away. The next time she heard my name, it was on the contract her company couldn't afford to sign. And the look on her face was worth every night I slept alone. That I remember the exact way her voice cut through the air that night. Playful, careless, but sharp enough to leave a scar. We were at her friend's apartment. I'd just gotten off a late shift and still smelled faintly of motor oil and cheap coffee. Her friends were all sitting around the kitchen island, sipping wine that probably cost more than my motel room for a week. One of them, Chloe, leaned in with that smirk only rich people seem to master. "So, Emma," she said, "are you really planning to settle down with someone who lives in motels?" Laughter followed, sharp and shallow. Emma didn't even hesitate. She tilted her head, smiled like it didn't matter, and said, "I'd never marry a man who lives in motels. He's temporary." The word hit harder than I expected. Temporary. Like I was a stopgap until something shinier came along. I looked at her. She didn't even glance back. Her eyes were on her glass, her fingers tracing the rim like she was already bored of the moment and of me. I didn't make a scene. I didn't shout, didn't slam the door. I just stood up, nodded once, and said quietly, "Got it." Then I walked out. No text, no calls, no explanations, just silence. That night, I packed the few clothes I had, grabbed my duffel bag, and checked out of the motel I'd been staying in. The clerk asked if I was moving again. I smiled and said, "For good this time." I didn't go home because I didn't have one, but I had a plan. For months, I worked nonstop. Days at the warehouse, nights doing freelance logistics planning. I was building something permanent. And in the quiet moments, when exhaustion hit hardest, her words echoed in my mind. "He's temporary." That word became my fuel. Every time I wanted to quit, I saw her face, the dismissive smile, the way her friends laughed. Every drop of sweat, every sleepless night, became an act of defiance. I wasn't trying to prove her wrong anymore. I was just proving myself right. Because temporary men don't build empires. They survive until they don't have to anymore. And I was done surviving. It was time to own something. To become someone no one could look down on again. By the time a year passed, I had moved into my first real office. Small, yes, but mine. The walls still smelled of paint, and the desk was secondhand, but the contracts on it were real. My startup, a logistics solutions company, was beginning to get noticed. And the funniest part? One of our first corporate clients reached out through a new contact, a marketing firm that needed our distribution tech for their rebrand. The name on the email? Chloe Harper, Emma's best friend. The conference room smelled like fresh paper and expensive perfume, the kind of scent that said, "Money walks here." I was early. I always was these days. Success had taught me punctuality isn't about time, it's about power. When you arrive first, you're not waiting for anyone. They're waiting for you. I was reviewing the contract draft when the door opened. Chloe Harper walked in first, exactly as confident as I remembered. Designer bag, manicured nails, sunglasses still perched on her head like she owned the daylight. Behind her came a small group, her assistant, a junior manager, and the last person I expected to see, Emma. She froze mid-step when she saw me. Her smile faltered, just slightly, but enough that I caught it. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Chloe's voice sliced through the tension. "Oh wow, small world. You two know each other." I smiled, calm, professional, unreadable. "We used to. Once upon a time." Emma's face stiffened. She forced a polite laugh, the kind people give when they want to crawl out of their own skin. "Yes, it's been a while." I gestured toward the seats. "Please, have a seat. Let's talk business." Her eyes darted to the company logo behind me, Solintra Logistics, bold letters across the glass wall. Recognition dawned on her face, slowly, painfully. She knew the name. Everyone in our circle did by now. We'd recently landed 2 regional contracts and had been featured in an industry article titled, "The Rise of Solintra, From Nothing to Necessity." I didn't bring it up. I didn't need to. The meeting began. Chloe led with enthusiasm, explaining their company's new marketing campaign and how they wanted our software integrated into their logistics backend. I listened, asked sharp questions, and took notes. The conversation was clean, efficient, professional, except for the silence that hung between me and Emma. Every time she tried to speak, her voice caught just a little too much. Every time our eyes met, she looked away. At one point, Chloe nudged her playfully. Emma actually recommended your company. Said she recognized your name from somewhere. I smiled thinly. Did she now? Emma's cheeks flushed crimson. She avoided my gaze entirely after that. The meeting went on another hour. Numbers, deliverables, deadlines, all of it routine. But under it all was that electric undercurrent, the unspoken history neither of us dared to mention in front of others. When the meeting ended, Chloe stood to shake my hand. We'll be in touch soon. This looks like the start of a great partnership. I'm sure it will be, I replied. The room emptied. Everyone except Emma, who lingered at the door. She turned back, hesitant. You built this. I didn't answer right away. I just looked at her. Really looked at her. The last time we'd spoken, I was a man with nothing, a duffel bag and a motel key. Now I was standing in a glass-walled office overlooking the skyline. Every brick, I said finally. Every late night. Every rejection. Every word. Her throat moved like she wanted to say something. An apology maybe, but the words wouldn't come. I walked past her toward the window. Funny thing about temporary people, I said. Sometimes they outlast the ones who called them that. She swallowed hard. I didn't mean. You did, I interrupted softly. And that's okay. You gave me exactly what I needed. When I turned around, her eyes were glassy, her jaw trembling slightly. I'm glad you're doing well, she whispered. I smiled. Not cruelly, but like someone who had finally made peace with the past. I am. She hesitated a moment longer, then left, closing the door quietly behind her. That night, my phone buzzed. Emma, I'm proud of you. Really, you deserve this. I stared at the message for a long time, then locked my phone without replying. Because sometimes silence says more than any words could. Weeks passed. The contract went through. Business soared. But I noticed something odd. Emma started showing up to more meetings, even ones that didn't require her. She'd linger after, asking how I'd been, trying to bridge the gap she once created. And maybe, once upon a time, I would have welcomed that. But I'd changed. The man she knew, the one who slept in motels and believed love was enough, was gone. Then came the message that changed everything again. Chloe, hey, hope you're free tomorrow. Our firm's hosting a gala. It's formal, networking event. Emma's on the organizing team. Would love to have Salentra represented. I stared at the invitation, a slow smile spreading across my face. A year ago, I couldn't afford a suit. Now, I was being invited to rooms where deals were signed over champagne. And this time, I wasn't going to blend into the background. I was going to stand in the center of it and make sure everyone saw the man she once called temporary. Update 1. The ballroom shimmered with gold and glass. Chandeliers hung like constellations above a sea of black suits and silk gowns. Laughter rippled through the air, the sound of money pretending to be charm. I adjusted my cufflinks, custom silver, engraved with my initials, and scanned the room. Salentra's name was printed proudly on the sponsorship banner beside Global Corporations. For a kid who once lived out of a motel, that banner might as well have been a throne. Mr. Cole, a hostess appeared, smiling brightly. Your table's ready. You'll be sitting with the Harper Group executives. Perfect. I followed her to the front row, the kind of table reserved for people who wrote checks, not invoices. And there she was, Emma. She was radiant, as always, wearing a deep emerald dress that made her look both powerful and painfully nostalgic. But her smile faltered the moment she saw me. Her hand froze mid-gesture, clutching a champagne flute just a little too tightly. Wow, she said softly, forcing a grin. You clean up well. I try, I said, taking my seat beside her. You look consistent. She blinked. Consistent? Yeah, some things never change. Across the table, Chloe waved. So glad you made it, Cole. This partnership's going to be legendary. She didn't notice the tension. Or maybe she did, and enjoyed it. The conversation flowed, business updates, future projects, polite laughter. I played my part flawlessly. Calm, composed, untouchable. But I could feel Emma's gaze flicker to me every few seconds, like she was trying to decode a language she'd forgotten how to read. Halfway through the evening, a new arrival drew everyone's attention. A tall man in a gray suit, arrogant posture, overconfident grin. Emma's date. She stood to greet him, her expression shifting into something between pride and panic. Cole, she said, introducing us. This is Daniel. He's. I know who he is, I said evenly. We've spoken before. Daniel frowned. We have. I smiled. Email. You work under Northbridge Logistics, correct? His face stiffened. Yeah, how'd you? I own the software platform your company uses. You might have seen my name on your vendor invoices. Chloe nearly choked on her drink, trying not to laugh. Emma's face went pale. Daniel cleared his throat. Right? Of course. Didn't realize, small world. Smaller than you think, I said with a polite nod. The rest of the dinner was a masterclass in silent discomfort. Daniel's arrogance deflated minute by minute as he realized who I'd become. Emma barely touched her food. She sat in silence, eyes darting between us, realizing how brutally time had reversed our positions. When the event wound down, she pulled me aside. Her voice trembled. You planned this, didn't you? I met her gaze, calm, unreadable. No, you did. What's that supposed to mean? You made me temporary. I made myself permanent. She bit her lip, eyes glassy. I didn't know you'd. No one ever does, I interrupted softly. Until it's too late. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Around us, the orchestra played something slow and sentimental, the kind of music people dance to when they still believe in second chances. She whispered, You must hate me. No, I said, shaking my head. You were the best lesson I ever learned. And I walked away. Outside, the cold night air felt cleaner than any apology could. My driver opened the car door, and as I got in, I caught one last glimpse through the glass doors. Emma standing alone in a room full of people who suddenly didn't matter. She looked small in a way I'd never seen before. And for the first time, I realized something. Revenge wasn't about making someone hurt. It was about walking away without needing to. Final update that IT had been 6 months since that gala. 6 months since Emma's trembling whisper in that glittering ballroom. Since Daniel's arrogant smirk evaporated the moment he realized I signed his company's paychecks. Life had been peaceful, not loud, not cinematic, just mine. Solentra kept growing. We secured 2 new logistics firms, expanded into automation, and finally opened our own headquarters, the kind of place I used to drive past and wonder what the people inside must feel like. Turns out, it feels like quiet satisfaction. Then, one morning, my assistant, Lily, walked in holding a manila envelope. It came through the legal office, she said. Apparently, Harper Group is bidding for the logistics project we opened last week. I raised an eyebrow. Harper Group. She nodded. Emma's department, I think. I leaned back in my chair. The sunlight hit my desk, catching the edges of the engraved glass plaque. Cole Evans, founder and CEO. Set up the meeting, I said. 3 days later, I walked into the conference room. The polished table gleamed, water glasses perfectly aligned, the city skyline stretching behind me like a reminder of how far away those motel walls really were. The door opened, and in walked Emma, crisp white blouse, navy blazer, professional composure stretched thin over visible nerves. Mr. Evans, she said, her voice steady but soft. Thank you for taking the meeting. Of course, I replied. Please have a seat. She did. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was heavy, earned. Her eyes flickered over the company logo on the presentation screen, my name, and then back to me. I've read through Harper's proposal, I began. It's solid. Your pricing's competitive. But before we move forward, there's a conflict I want to address. She swallowed. A conflict? Yes. Personal, not professional. One I think we should acknowledge before the lawyers do. Her composure cracked for just a second. Cole, I didn't. Relax, I said calmly. I'm not here to drag the past into the boardroom. I'm here to make a decision. Her hands tightened on her folder. Then what's your decision? I looked her dead in the eye. I'm awarding the contract to Northbridge instead. Your ex's company. Her jaw dropped. What? What? Because they use our software more efficiently. And because you once said I wasn't going anywhere in life. Turns out, I go where efficiency is. She blinked rapidly, fighting to maintain her professional tone. Cole, please. This project, my job depends on it. So did my self-worth once, I said quietly. But I built that back without you. The room stayed silent except for the faint hum of the air conditioning. Finally, I stood, closing my folder. I'm glad you're doing better, I said sincerely. Really, but you taught me something important, Emma. Never let someone else define what temporary means. I turned to leave, and just before I reached the door, she whispered, Do you ever think about us? I paused. The city lights outside reflected faintly on the glass wall, glittering like old memories. Only when I pass a motel, I said, smiling faintly. Reminds me how far I've come. That night, I got a message request on Instagram. Emma Harper, I'm proud of who you've become. You deserved more than I could give back then. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because sometimes closure isn't a conversation, it's a contract with your own peace. I set my phone down, leaned back, and looked across the table. On the other side sat my fiancée, Claire, head of finance, the woman who once helped me balance more than just numbers. She glanced up from her laptop, smiling. How'd the meeting go? Closed a door, I said simply. Opened another. She laughed softly. That's my favorite kind of deal. Outside, the city hummed, not with revenge, but with freedom. The kind you only feel when you stop proving your worth to people who never deserve to measure it.